So, as you probably heard and are seeing, Charlie Kirk was assassinated on a college campus in Utah yesterday, and there's been a lot of people celebrating this and also a lot of people condemning it, and which I do think it's quite interesting and telling. Just a quick aside that there's a lot of people who condemn this who have been silent on the Holocaust that's continuing to be perpetrated against the Palestinians and is fully supported and being facilitated by the US government with these people's tax dollars, and not a fucking word about the 200,000+ people who have been murdered almost exclusively with US-made weapons and support, over half of them being women and children. Not a fucking word about that, but white supremacist, xenophobe, champion of the ruling class, LGBTQ, bigotry, Charlie Kirk, they are strongly, vociferously condemning this act of political violence. Or they're also not speaking up or in support of the ICE raids against migrants for the crime of crossing a imaginary border on stolen land. Not a word from these people about those types of white supremacist, settler colonial violence, but a whole lot to say when a horrible person is no longer alive. Not to say that I support random acts of assassination, because, and I think Danny Haifong was correct in his assessment, is this is only going to lead to more authoritarianism and repression by the capitalist class, who obviously control all branches of our government. And Trump has already said as much, not even hinted at it, that even though this person who assassinated Kirk hasn't been caught or identified, at least the last I heard, Trump is blaming all of this on left-wing agitators or extremists. And so this will just be another thing that the state uses to further curtail free speech rights, right to assembly, any type of political dissent. And like I said, Trump literally already said that. And as Haifong correctly pointed out, the United States is the most, for fuck's sake, the US has killed, and this was a couple years ago, 4.5 million people globally since 9/11. Were these people speaking up against the crimes of the empire then, when the body counts in the millions? But so just that dichotomy is pretty interesting. And whereas Malcolm X would say the chickens are coming home to roost, or the fact that the United States, and through covert operations vis-a-vis the CIA, etc., have used political assassinations for decades to install puppet regimes and client regimes and institute these regime change efforts all over the globe. So it's one of those things, do as I say, not as I do. And also just the fact that as the social cohesion as the material conditions continue to deteriorate. Things like this will become more and more common. I mean, shortly before Kirk was assassinated, there was a school shooting, another school shooting in the United States. I think it was like the 45th or 46th that's happened this year. Was President Trump giving a speech about that? I mean, I think we should all be able to agree that those children's lives are at least as important as Kirk's, if not more. I would argue a whole lot more. But is he up there giving a speech about the need to crack down on school shooters? Of course not. Or expanding mental health care, making sure everybody has universal health care, access to mental health care, livable wage job, housing, basic necessities met? Of course not. But again, this random act of political violence will just be used to further crack down on any type of dissent that aims to improve the material conditions of working people here or globally, and efforts to end the Holocaust that's being perpetrated against the Palestinians, and just efforts to combat, empire and U.S. imperialism. So, as Haifong again rightly pointed out, his analysis is usually quite sound in my opinion. This is just another event in the long history of political violence of this country. It's not a singular act. These things have happened before. MLK, JFK, Malcolm, Fred Hampton, the Palmer raids, the war against the Black Panthers in general, etc., etc. So let me know your thoughts down below. Are you celebrating? Is there some catharsis with this for you? Are you condemning it? Do you think it's going to lead to more state oppression, surveillance, and violence? Somewhere in between. Let me know. Peace. All power to people. Free Palestine.